Welcome to Sausage on a Fork, a podcast dedicated to the UK's longest running children's drama programme, Grange Hill. My name's Neil, and in each episode I'll interview a former cast member about their life before, during and after their time on the programme. Okay, welcome to the latest episode of Sausage on a Fork, and I am absolutely delighted to say that I have been joined by none other than Jamie Golding, who played Grimbo Pike. Jamie, welcome to Sausage on a Fork.
Thank you for having me.
No, not at all, not at all. What we'll do, Jamie, is we'll start the way we start every episode, and if you can tell us how you first got into acting.
My mum was into amateur dramatics in my hometown in Basildon in Essex. And I used to I think my first experience on stage that I remember was I was playing the arms of a tree behind this in a pantomime somewhere. And then the next I was playing Toto the dog in Wizard of Oz.
Brilliant.
Then I did Bugsy Malone, and I was Knuckles in Bugsy Malone.
Oh, right, okay.
It was directed by a professional director, but it was all amateur kids.
Yeah.
And I got picked up by an agent there, and then that's how I got into it. And I was about 10 then, I think.
Brilliant. And so you played Knuckles in Bugsy Malone, and could you actually do the knuckle crack?
No, they used a tablet bottle that you have to push down.
Right.
If you don't push it down, it makes that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they use that in the orchestra pit.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so you got picked up by an agent there, and did you get much work?
Yeah, my first job, I think was there used to be a program called The Right to Reply,
right,
where people used to write in letters to Anne Robinson or whoever and say why oh why,
yeah.
And they did a kids version, and I read the letters out,
right.
the kids letters, and then I think I did a couple of adverts and things like that. But my first real big job, I think, was Les Miserables in the West End.
Wow, brilliant! And was there anyone in that who we may have known?
I was the little boy in it, so I was only about 13 or something. So I think Denise Van Outen was one of the kids in it as well.
Right.
I can't remember. God, it's a long time ago.
Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Fair enough. And so, did you attend any? Did you go to like any stage school or anything?
No, I just went to normal school. I at the same time I was approached by this agent. I was approached by Sylvia Young, which is another. Right. They were the biggest name at the time, and probably still are. But I'd already committed to this other agent, so I went with them. And I just went to normal school and used to take days off for auditions, and it was a bit more relaxed in those days and that sort of thing.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, I said to you before we started, I use IMDb as my my source. Yeah, and the first thing that you're down for there is Dodgem.
Yeah,
1991. We're obviously with Sean Maguire, who had left Grange Hill at that point. And so your paths crossed there. One going from Grange Hill, one on his way towards Grange Hill.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean that was sort of like your first sort of big telly thing, was it?
Yeah, I guess it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, Lucy Speed was in it as well, and a very young Hugh Bonneville.
was
in there as well. Yeah, that was a lot. That was good fun. It was a big learning curve. That one. I've gone a lot from stage to, and then acting on telly was a very different experience.
So, and I mean when Sean Maguire was on here, we talked a bit about Dodgem, and it was just saying about it was for a kids program. It was really bleak.
Yeah, it was. It was like... Yeah, it was. Yeah, it wasn't cheerful. He was Sean. I really liked him. He was a nice guy.
Yeah, like nothing good happened. It was everything. Everything was bad. Like I mean, and your character Tanyard, he was horrible, wasn't he?
Yeah, he wasn't nice at all. No. It's funny. Any TV jobs I've ever got, I've always been played the hard nut or the rough guy, but most of the stage stuff I've done has always been quite cheeky, chirpy, chappy. Right.
So, okay, fair enough. Okay, and so then after that, it's listed that was when you went to Grange Hill.
Yes.
So how did that come about?
I've got a usual path, I suppose. I'd got an audition and went in, read for the director, and I was at school a couple of weeks later, and one of the teachers came in and said, "Look, can we speak to Jamie, please?" And they took me outside, and I thought I was in trouble. And my mum was on the phone, and she said, "Oh, you got it, you got it." So I went straight from my GCSEs, school uniform and all that, to Grange Hill back in school uniform. But no, I didn't have to do any. It was that revision time, so I didn't have to do much in terms of schooling as well on set, like a lot of the other kids were.
Yeah. And did you audition for the part of Grimbo?
I think so, yeah. Right. I think so, yeah.
Okay, so you joined Grange Hill in series 15. It went out on 1992, so it would have been 91 when you were filming it. But were you already a fan of Grange Hill?
Oh, I always used to watch it. I mean, that was the big program of the time, wasn't it? There was no. There was no Hollyoaks or anything. Was there Hollyoaks then? Maybe there was. I can't remember.
No, Hollyoaks was a little bit later.
Right. Okay. So there wasn't anything like that. So that was the big program at the time. Yeah.
Okay. And so, what was it like then, going from someone that had seen, these people on telly, to all of a sudden, you're in the same room as them, and you're working with them?
A lot of the kids that were in it when I watched it had already left.
Right.
So I hadn't worked with a lot of them, but some of them I had, and obviously the teachers. But when you're a kid, you kind of take that stuff in your stride, don't you? So I didn't really analyze it too much. It's only on hindsight I used to think, blimey. Yeah. It was big at the time, but I didn't really think about it then.
Brilliant. Okay, so you joined, as we said, you were playing Grimbo.
Yeah.
And Grimbo was a member of Mick's gang, or the smoking gang, or the cigarette gang, as they were referred to.
Yeah.
Several different times, along with Big Frank and Barry Timpson, who'd already been in the show for a couple of years.
I knew who he was. But,
David Crane. Yeah. Were you a smoker?
No, I didn't. I mean, I've got to be careful because my son might listen to this. I didn't have peer pressure stuff at school, but no, not really.
Right. Okay. And then the first time we see Grimbo, he's with Barry is trying to buy cigarettes.
Right.
But he's not getting anywhere with it. And Mick, who's played by Joe Polby, and what a character Mick was anyway. To have Joe Polby playing him,
nice
as well,
guy. And Chris as well, big Chris.
Yeah. But Mick told Barry that he couldn't hang around with them if he couldn't get any cigarettes. And when you just think, what a thing for a kid to be saying, you can't be my mate if you can't buy any. But and then like most smokers do at school, they were always looking for somewhere to go and have a smoke.
Yes. Yeah.
And they ended up in the shed in the Peace Garden.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the caretaker's shed, wasn't it?
Yeah. There was a shed out in the Peace Garden. And I think the workers went in there and stuff as well. And Barry then turned up with cigarettes so he could be their mate again.
Okay, right. Okay, I don't remember that. But I remember the Peace Shed around the Peace Garden, yeah.
Yeah, no. But the big thing around that was, though, at the time in Grange Hill, there was a school newspaper. And no one ever seemed to be doing any work in school. They always seemed to be trying to find stories for the newspaper. And that was when the gang had been picking on a first year kid, and Ray overheard them.
Oh yeah, Kelly George. Yeah.
Kelly George, yeah. And he started writing about them for the newspaper. And then in the toilets, the gang sort of cornered Ray.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And they warned him not to write anything about them.
I always thought that was a bit ridiculous because Kelly was clearly a little bit older than us. He beat us up with the top of his head. I always felt a bit stupid in that stuff.
Yeah, he let's just say Kelly, he didn't look his age, did he?
Yeah, and I used to hide behind Big Chris, so push him to the front.
Yeah. Now, the other person the cigarette gang were keeping an eye on was Justine Dean, but not for the way most lads would have been keeping an eye on Justine, to be honest. She was the editor of the paper, and they were worried that if she wrote anything about them, they were going to get it.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, Rachel. Yeah.
They were worried that they'd get into trouble, and then the newspaper did get published, but the gang managed to get hold of quite a lot of the newspapers, but they were unable to stop them all getting out. And Mad Max, Mr. Hargreaves, that a gang was selling cigarettes to first years, which he wasn't happy about.
Right.
And later on in that episode, Justine was pushed into the lockers and got knocked out.
God, yeah. Was it?
You never actually, I don't think you ever actually find out who it was.
Oh, really? I can't remember that.
But do you know who it was?
No, I was just thinking, I don't remember. I vaguely remember having a fake cut on her head with some plaster of some sort. But no, until you just said that, I'd completely forgot about all that.
Yeah, right, okay. Because as I say, I don't think it was ever sort of found out because she just wants to get on with it and just, just leave it sort of thing. But I was just wondering if behind the scenes...
I might be... I've got Mick, so maybe for some reason I've got him as the culprit, but I might be wrong.
Okay, all right. Because you really don't see... you don't see any hand or anything. You just see sort of like the force getting pushed into it. Because obviously... Justine's mates thought it was the gang that had done it, and obviously they were heavily under suspicion.
Probably wasn't.
But it led to Mr. Robson asking them, but they always maintained their innocence on that one.
Yeah.
Like, so if you don't know, then I don't know how anyone will ever find out. So then they went back to the shed where they'd been smoking, but they found that someone had been in and taking their cigarettes. Now, why lads were leaving their cigarettes behind, I don't know. Why they didn't have them in their bags or whatever. Like, the thing that always got me anyway with not just on Grange Hill, but smokers in general at school was how did they afford them? Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. They were a lot cheaper then.
But like, it was one of those things. Like,
MB&A could have boxer matches didn't back much. Now it would.
I mean, but back when, like, even before I started high school, you could always buy Lucy's, what they called Lucy's. You could just buy 1 or 2 cigarettes.
Oh, really? Oh, no. We used to buy a pack of 10.
Yeah, but not a... I just don't know. So they found out that someone had been in and taken the cigarettes. But there was also, the shed was getting used by, like, some of the kids who were using it for, like, normal purposes because they were looking after the garden. And
it's a potting shed or something.
Yeah. And so Alice went into the shed to get her flask, and the gang saw her and confronted her and broke, like, her cups and stuff, like that. And Alice then went back to Justine and told her about the gang in the shed. And so Justine went to investigate, and when she went to investigate, she found that Grimbo and Mick had been selling cigarettes to the first years, but told them that they wouldn't have any. They would have cigarettes in a week because their supply had been short. And to go back and see them then, now I just think that just sounded strange because when Mick had told Barry he couldn't knock about with them if he didn't have any cigarettes, and they didn't have any themselves. So it
wasn't a great business plan.
And then so Justine was there and she'd overheard them telling them to go back and see them in a week when they'd have cigarettes. So Justine decided that she was going to go back in a week, and she also told the gang that the police would find out about them selling cigarettes to the first years. But they didn't believe her. So she played them an edited version of an interview. I don't know if you remember this, with Mrs. Keel.
Oh my God, I do remember exactly that because we all got a fit of the giggles.
It sounded like the police knew about them selling the cigarettes.
Right, yeah.
And so they ended up flushing the cigarettes down the toilet.
Yes, I remember that.
Now, there was quite a few scenes in the toilets, wasn't there, with your lot? Because I suppose that was one place smokers would have gone anyway. But you'd always seem to find, like, the hard lads at school.
It was the only place they didn't have smoke alarms, I think.
Yeah, they needed somewhere to lurk as well, I found. Like, but
I remember me and Chris used to have to throw the cigarettes, and he's a big lad. He was like two then, and we'd always have to squeeze into this cubicle with Dave and Joe's head over the top or something.
Yeah. Now, in that series, there'd been a lot of things with gangs and gang fighting.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Well, And the feud, it was the feud between Grange Hill and St. Joe's.
Yeah.
And it ramped up until there was the massive fight.
Yeah, I remember that.
On the waste ground. So what are your memories of that? Because Alan Cave told me he was absolutely terrified that day because there was that many people there and they just bust loads of people in. Julie Buckfield told me she was all right because she was with Joe Poby. She was a mate of Joe Poby, and he was looking after her. What are your memories of that?
I remember, like you say, a lot of people around, and it was a derelict. It looked like an old office block or something. They were about to demolish or something, and we were all. There was loads of loose rocks and stones everywhere, and there was a steady cam, and I was a bit intimidated by all that as well. Yeah, because there was a few guys from St. Joe's that also had that quality of they were probably a bit older than they were playing. Well, as was I, but I still looked young. But that's quite intimidating as well. I remember we were all rushing towards St. Joe's. Yeah, I don't have a lot of memories, but what you mentioned, that's all.
Alan Cave said he was convinced there was like people like smoking crack and all kinds.
Really?
Yeah, he said.
I was stood near Joe as well. A little security blanket near him.
He said because he was younger as well.
Maybe Julie was looking after me, right?
Yeah. he said because he was younger. He said he was just so scared by.
Yeah, he was young, wasn't he? Yeah,
by everything. Yeah. Okay. Another thing that the smoking gang did was we just talked about the toilets. You know, as lads do, they spent some of their time vandalising. Toilets as well. And again, it was Ray that caught them, and he tried to stop them, but they couldn't. But he couldn't, obviously, because he was outnumbered 4-1. Even though you said Kelly George against those four lads might have done something, but Ray Haynes, didn't. And there's a bit where the lads try and go and do some proper damage, but they ended up getting soaked because they were trying to stuff down. I think they were trying to stuff down the toilets.
Oh, wasn't there a burst pipe or something?
There was a burst pipe, and they ended up getting soaked. Yeah, I was just wondering if you had any sort of memories on that one.
No, I think I remember watching Joe get wet quite a lot. I don't remember getting wet myself too much.
Yeah, Joe seems to take the worst of it, to be honest.
Yeah, there was like a comedy, wah, 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 wah. No, if I remember rightly, he got the worst of that.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing then, Miss Janowitz was leaving, the American teacher. So Richard had done a collection. They'd made a collection for it, and the lads had tried to rob the collection from Richard, and they were waiting for him outside school.
Right.
And they were all at different points. But then Richard sees someone that he knows who was working for a newspaper, a real newspaper, not the school newspaper, and he ended up giving them a lift. He ended up giving Richard a lift, and the lads thought that Richard had vanished and couldn't work out.
Oh, really? That Desmond Askew.
Yeah. Another one who looked slightly older than he was probably playing. So they didn't get to get the money in the end. But what they did do was they went to. Now this bit always gets me. They went to the school fashion show.
Oh my God!
Which didn't seem to be the type of thing that the cigarette gang would have gone to. If I'm completely honest.
No. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
If I'm completely honest, they didn't seem the type of lads that would have gone to the fashion show, but there they were. But when they were there, they realised that they could get the money, the collection that they've been trying to get, and they did actually steal the money in the end for Miss Janowitz's present. And it was Ray again caught them spending the money.
Oh, really? Any of these?
And it looked like they got away with it because Ray wasn't going to be able to prove it. But the next day was the last day of term. I don't even remember this one. And the gang were in the bike sheds and they were actually smoking and they were drinking alcohol as well that they bought with the money.
We were.
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
And the other lads went looking for them because they'd stolen the money, the likes of Richard and Ray and Nick. and it looked like it was about to kick off. Something was about to happen.
I vaguely remember that.
Until Mr. Robson, Mr. Mackenzie, and Mr. Hankin all intervened. And they took the gang to Mrs. Keel's office, and they were expelled. Now, just on that, because obviously you've got a scene there with 4 members of staff, 4 teachers.
Yeah. What was the actors as well?
What was the relationship like between the kids and the adults?
It's good. Yeah, we got on well with them. I don't have any recollection of a distance. Maybe I didn't consider myself one of the kids because I wasn't in schooling, as it were. So we used to just hang out and.
So you didn't need chaperone or anything like that, did you?
No. I literally just avoided that by like a couple of months because I'd just done my GCSEs or was about to. They were lovely. And I remember Anna Quayle being very friendly.
Yeah.
And Mr. Robson, I forgot his
Stuart Organ.
Yeah, he was always very nice. Yeah.
No,
and also being in a scene with those guys was quite intimidating because they were, very well established, accomplished actors. So there was definitely a lot of learning going on, a little side eye, making sure you're doing the right thing, from us to them,
And of course, Lee Corns as well.
Lee Corns, yeah.
And like I love Lee Corns. Like when he was on, he came on here, and I could have done a series of podcasts just talking to him because he was in Grange Hill for that long, but he just had so many stories about other things as well, and everyone just says how naturally funny he was as well. Like, so we just said that the lads were expelled then. So were you expecting that would be it for your time after the first series?
Not to correct you, I think we were suspended.
Right.
Well, I think that was the deal because in the next series,
I
don't want to jump ahead too much. That was more of a definite, but it was definitely a suspension.
I think what happened was in the next series, Barry Timpson was back in school, and everyone was sort of confused as to why, and he was there on his own, and everyone was after him and giving him grief and chasing him and stuff. And there's a scene where he's getting chased by girls because he's on his own, he's got no backup, and the girls are chasing him, and then he falls on the corridor, and the girls run after him, and then they all stop in the tracks because round the corner come Grimbo, Mick, and Frank.
So threatening.
Yeah, but then the next episode, that was like the end of that was like your EastEnders stuff. Yeah. But the next episode, they went to Mrs. Keel's office, and you see them, and she's talking to them.
Yeah.
And she was really unwell. She had a really sore throat.
That's right.
And you could hardly hear what was getting said.
We were laughing at, weren't we?
The lads were just really taking. Well, Mick was taking the mick, shall we say? And they all just seemed to be winding up and laughing at it. Now, was the laughing genuine? Because it looks like it was.
No, it was already, that was in the script, if I remember rightly. There's some things that really stick in your mind, aren't there?
Yeah.
No, that was definitely in the script, the laughing of that. But we as a group, we were kind of giggly anyway.
Yeah.
In the outtakes at the party at the end of the season, there's quite a lot of clips of us, not being able to control ourselves.
I mean, I imagine it must be difficult if you're having to play that type of character all the time, but you're there with your mates.
Yeah, and especially if you're quite jokey people,
it
kind of goes against what your natural instinct would be to do.
And like obviously, you worked a lot with the 3 lads, and would you say that you were close as a group? Anyway,
yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd love to get in touch with them again. Joe used to come down to ours quite a lot, and Chris did as well. And David Crane was a lovely lad. He was so funny. Yeah, I've lost touch with all of them, unfortunately.
All right, okay. Well, maybe if any of them listen to this, maybe we can sort something out there. Like, okay. So, I just love watching that scene though, because it's so funny because she's trying to be so serious with them. She's got such a sore throat. The lads are all just laughing at her, and there's a bit where she says, "Do you understand what I'm saying to you?" And Mick replies to her
Not really.
With it like the same sort of voice. Do you understand? Yes. He does that type of thing. Like, but then they all promised that what had happened wouldn't happen again. The way the lads do, and straight away they're out there. They're picking on little kids.
Yes.
So straight away. Now there was a storyline. Don't remember this one with Natasha Stevens, who was Claire Buckfield. This was about a diary getting photocopied. And posted around the school. And
oh my god, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
they were in the diary. The lads were mentioned saying that they weren't really that frightening, even though they thought they were. Okay. So the lads decide that they need to start having try and do a little bit more, and they started having a go at Mary. If you remember, Mary was the traveller.
Yeah,
the traveller. And they start having a go at it, but she manages to get her own back, and she floors one of them and runs off. Maybe, yeah,
probably,
yeah. And so, obviously, maybe they weren't that frightening after all. Because then there's a few little things where, like, Barry and Grimbo were having a go at one of the younger kids, one of the first years, but Jacko and his mates turn up and stop them. And the first thing Grimbo and Barry says to him, "Oh, you wait till Mick hears about this."
Right.
And Jacko and his mates just sort of laugh at them and walk off. Now, part of the deal with the lads being back in the school was they had to do like community work, community service.
That's right.
And this is like your sort of main storyline. I feel like
it definitely led more into our personal.
So when you're told that you're going to get a storyline like that, but you're going, you're not just going to be one of Mick's henchmen. And you sort of start getting your own storyline. What was that? How's that like as a child actor being told?
Again, like I said, you just go through it. You don't think about that nowadays. If I was in something and I got a story, I'd be, oh my god, I'd be so excited. But that was just it was kind of that borderline between, obviously acting is a hobby generally, and then you turn it into a career, hopefully. But at that stage, it was still very much a hobby that I was getting paid to do. So I was just loving it. I loved it. It was brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. And what I like about this storyline is you get to see more of Grimbo and more of Frank, because it's not just the four lads together and just smashing up toilets or finding somewhere to smoke. And to be honest, the smoking side sort of disappeared a lot in this series.
Went, didn't it?
It wasn't a big thing. Like, but
we went into our community service storylines.
And they what Grimbo and Frank, they went to an old lady's house. Mrs. Sichaski, was it? I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Played by Evie Garrett. Now,
she was brilliant.
I've seen Evie Garrett in loads of things, and like she did bits in Little Britain.
Mate, she's so good. She was in everything around that time.
Yeah,
she did loads. I remember me and Chris getting the giggles again. She was playing this. Was she Polish or something?
Yeah.
And she had a locket. I'm jumping ahead, maybe what you're going to say. But she had this locket, and she was referring to her husband, Mikhail or something, and she pronounced it in a very strong Polish accent, which came out of nowhere. We weren't ready for that.
Right.
So she called him Mikhail or something like that. I remember, and me and Chris just lost it. The poor girl, this poor lady was giving like tears down her face, and me and Chris were just laughing. Yeah, that was bad.
No, I mean, like I say, for the things you've seen, I've seen it in.
But she could turn on the tears like that. She was amazing.
Brilliant. And so in that storyline, they're just doing odd jobs for her around the house, and Grimbo sees some jewellery, and he thinks about taking it, but she sees him in the room, and she sort of ushers him out, asks him to leave. And they also find some computer games.
Oh God, yeah.
In there, and I can't remember what console it was, but anyway,
it was a Sega.
Right, okay. Gosh. And so Frank's going to nick some of the games, but then she comes back in, and that's when she starts telling him a bit more about her life like what you've just been saying there. And, you know, she's Polish. She lost her family in the concentration camps. And Grimbo sort of has a little bit of a crisis of conscience about what he was thinking of doing. Because he tells Frank that, you know, not to steal the computer games. And she also tells him that the games are her son's and that she can play as well. Right. And so later on, you know, because she talked about losing her husband and stuff. And Grimbo goes back to her house on his own, and Grimbo had a locket.
That's right, yeah.
Well, or not maybe not a locket, but he had a picture.
I think I gave it back.
Yeah, he had a picture of his dad.
Oh, did I? Oh, okay, right.
And he said his dad had been killed in the Falklands.
Oh, right, I forgot about that.
And then so she says to him, "Why are you telling me this?" And obviously, Grimbo's having a bit of crisis of conscience. His emotions are all over the place, and he just kicks off.
That's right.
He kicks off and he walks out. And there's a time when Frank was in the house, and she asks Frank about Grimbo's family, and Frank said, "Oh yeah, he lives with his dad because his mum has died 2 years ago." So again, we're finding out a little bit more about Grimbo and why he's the way he is. But the photograph that he had of his dad in the locket, he bought it in a junk shop. But his dad had actually died, and because she was all confused, and obviously as you would be, because if someone's told you that dad's died, then someone else says, "Oh yeah, he lives with him."
Yeah.
What it was his real dad had died in the Falklands, and the dad he lived with now wasn't his real dad, but had been his mum's partner when his mum had died. And you're sort of finding out a little bit more there again about Grimbo. Both his biological parents have died. He's living with somebody who isn't his dad. You know, naturally you're going to get a bit mixed up, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? You're going to get a bit like that. And I just think that's good, because we didn't always see that with those bullying types of characters on Granger. No. You just saw them and you didn't get an idea about their background.
No, you just saw them in the school, didn't you? Yeah. About that before. Yeah, that's true.
But I just think it's really nice because it gives you a little bit more depth. It was a fun
storyline to do. I remember that. That.
So when he was telling all this to Mr. Sitchalski, and he said about the fact that, you know, his family was all, you know, the way it was, and she gave him some computer games.
That's right.
But Grimbo, being Grimbo, told Frank that he'd nicked them. They're talking to Mick about this, and Mick says that they should be nicking more stuff from their house, you know, if it's easy to do. So that's when Grimbo does actually steal the locket.
Oh, okay. Because wasn't Joe? He was at a kid's.
Joe. Yeah. So Mick and Barry had gone to a nursery.
That's right.
And Mick didn't like it, but Barry did.
Barry loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, after Grimbo's taking the locket, we see the lads in a nightclub.
Yes. Oh my God, I remember filming that.
Yeah. So
I wore my mates. I don't know if you remember. There was a brand called Joe Blogs.
Right. Yeah.
My mate had a Joe. My mate Mark had a Joe Blogs jumper, and I said, "I'll wear it because we'll wear what I want." Yeah. We want to kind of bring your own costume sort of day. And I bought in that, and they approved it. So yeah, I wore my mate's top on telly.
Brilliant. No, I like that, like the stuff like where they go to a nightclub, because that's what kids do.
Yeah,
isn't it? You know what I mean? When they get to that age, 15, 16, they do start like trying to get out and go out and stuff.
Yeah. I remember having to pretend to dance to the music, because obviously different now, but used to film these wild tracks. So they film the music, they record the music separately, and then you'd look like you're dancing to music that you played. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
When I was Desmond Askew, as you mentioned before, when he was on here, there's a scene where he's dancing with Maria Louisa Bradshaw White, and they're slow dancing, and they've got their hands on. But then he said, obviously, you don't know what music they're going to play, but the music that they played for that scene was 2 Unlimited. Get ready for this, and he said it's not the type of dance, it's not the type of music you'd be dancing like that to with someone. But yeah, so in the nightclub,
Nightingales, it was called Nightingales,
right? Okay, yeah. In the nightclub, Grimbo gives Mick the locket.
Oh, did I? Okay.
But the photo fell out of it.
Right.
So Grimbo grabbed the locket and he grabbed the photo and kept hold of it. And Grimbo and Frank tried to then sell the locket as well.
Okay.
But they were having no luck with it. So then they went back to, Mary, the traveller, again. This is sort of like the attitudes of people. They wanted her to sell it because she was a traveller. She'd be used to getting people to buy stuff.
Right. Okay.
As I say, like it. But that's one of those things I always think about. I always say about Grange Hill and the fact that it wasn't afraid to tackle storylines and it wasn't afraid to tackle the attitudes of people.
No, of its time, it was quite brave with some subjects, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. She would be used to selling stolen goods. That was
terrible.
The thing, yeah. But Grimbo was again sort of having this crisis of conscience about selling it because he knew he'd nicked it. He knew what it meant to Mrs. Suchaski.
Yeah, I remember feeling how you had to feel bad about all that.
Yeah, and he realised basically that he'd done wrong. He knew what he'd done wasn't right. And in the meantime, Mrs. Suchaski realised that the locket was missing. And she went to see Mrs. Keel because she said the only way it could have gone missing was Graham, as she called him, or Frank taking it. So they were caught. They were called to the office, and Mrs. Suchaski said it had been given to her by her husband, and it had a special photo of him inside. She wasn't bothered about the locket. She just wanted the photograph, and Grimbo gave her the photograph. And he said he didn't know why he'd kept it, but he was glad that he did because as we're saying there, he's going through all these emotions. He's going through all this stuff, and he knew he'd done the right thing in the end by keeping it because he admitted to stealing the locket. But the lads, they were suspended and eventually they were expelled. But the last time we saw Grimbo, because even after that had happened, was when, I don't know if you remember this one, Robin had gone missing.
Oh, God, Nina Fry?
Yeah, Nina Fry, yeah. She'd gone missing and a bike had been found in the canal.
Oh, God, yes, I remember that.
And Grimbo and his mates were asking the police about what had happened.
Right.
So that scene there, because again, that's another different scene where you're not in the school. You've been in a nightclub. You've been in the house.
We're at school a lot that year, yeah.
But now you're at the canal, and it's dark. So was it a morning shoot or
night shoot? That's what I remember. That it was a night shoot. Yeah. We were. You've jogged a lot of memories there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember it being cold. Didn't someone have to jump in? I remember.
There may well have been a frogman or something like that.
I remember someone being very cold anyway.
Right, okay. And then we never saw Grimbo again.
That's it, yeah, we were gone.
Yeah. It was really strange because, obviously Frank and Grimbo were suspended to be expelled.
Yeah.
Mick and Barry were still around at the school.
Yeah.
But we never saw.
Yes, we just disappeared, didn't we? It never resolved, did it?
No, it didn't. It didn't. So, whose decision was it for you to leave?
Oh, it's just in the script. It's just you just get your script, read the lines, and that's it. I never really thought about it. Also, I was in the 5th year at Grange Hill, or whatever it is now, year 11, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the only way to go any further would have been to go to the 6th form, which obviously wasn't an option after that. I remember being expelled, and that was it. That was just on to the next.
Yeah, Grimbo didn't seem to be the type of character that would have gone to 6th form, if I'm completely honest. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. It's a question I've never asked anyone before on the podcast. Now, who do you think would have won a fight, Grimbo or Tanyard from Dodgem?
Oh, Tanyard. Yeah. Grimbo was a wimp, really.
Yeah, no, I'd go with Tanyard as well because I've watched a few bits of it in research for this, and like I said, he's just horrible, isn't he? He's so antagonistic, isn't he? He just wants he just wanted to fight everyone, not as much as the little kid in Dodgem. I forgot what his name was, but yeah, Sean Maguire walks in and he's just like, "Do you want to fight?"
Yeah. He was lovely, that kid. I forgot his name.
Brilliant. So your time in Grange Hill comes to an end. 19 episodes It was, yeah, over the 2 series. And so, did you carried on acting then?
Yeah, I carried on. I had a couple of guest episodes of The Bill, and then the Ghostbusters of East Finchley. I did.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I looked at that. That cast.
Oh my God,
was magnificent, wasn't it? Like,
I mean, I was with one of the impressive members of that cast, but other than that, yeah.
So, because I was looking before, so the likes of Paul Reynolds, who was like,
he was in everything.
He was one of those. Yeah, he was one of the people who, like, you might not necessarily have known his name, but you would have seen him in, like.
He was in everything.
He done Press Gang. He did, Let Him Have It. He was doing. Also, but like Jan Francis and Ray Winston and Bill Patterson and
Rona Mitra,
Jane Cox, Sheila Reid, Anthony Heads. There was just so many.
God, was it? I don't even remember. Like I said, I didn't have anything to do with it.
Mark Hattie was in it as well. I think. It looks like a lot of actors sort of cut their teeth in the Ghostbusters of East Finchley. So who did you get to work with then?
I worked with Rona Mitra. I was I remember roller skating in it. We were roller skating windscreen wipers, traffic lights.
Oh, right, yeah.
And me and Rona were, and she's gone on to do loads of stuff. She's like Mrs. Hollywood now. She's amazing. Yeah.
So, could you roller skate?
Yes, I auditioned for a musical called Starlight Express.
Oh yeah.
And as part of that audition process, you used to go to a skate school for a week, and then you'd have your final audition at the end of that. So, and I could skate a little bit, so I kind of skated like that, and then I ended up actually doing the show itself a couple of years later. Anyway,
wow, brilliant.
Yeah, so we were roller skating windscreen wipers.
It's okay. Now, so you left Grange Hill in '93. Ghostbusters of East Finchley was '95. The Bill was sort of around about that time as well. But then there's nothing else sort of listed in IMDb for about another 10 years.
No, the TV stopped. Well, I wanted to sing was the thing. And my voice was breaking, and I was advised not to sing during that when your voice is breaking, because it can damage your voice later on in life. So I stopped. And I kind of fumbled around for a couple of years, and then I ended up on the holiday camps for Warner Holidays, the adult-only Warner Holidays, and I ended up actually singing more there, learning how to sing. Basically, I always considered that my training, because I didn't train in a formal capacity. So I was like a green coat, if you like, red coat on the holiday camps, doing all the cabaret singing and stuff like that. And so I was out of the business for quite a while. And then I got back into it when I got Sweeney Todd, a theatre Clwyd.
All right.
Then I went down the huge musical theatre path, which I'm still on.
So can I just ask then, you say you're working at the holiday camps. Was that like sort of all year round, or was it literally just for the seasons?
No, that was all year round.
Right.
They were great. I loved it. It was I didn't enjoy all the aspects of it. Yeah. Calling bingo and running ballroom classes or whatever.
Yeah.
But keep fit classes.
Wow. So you have to do everything basically.
Yeah, it's a long day. But the standard that we had in that particular holiday camp was really high as far as music was concerned. So we got some good singers, and we put on we really lent into performing the shows at that place quite heavily.
Brilliant. Okay. So what other sorts of shows have you done then?
So I went into Sweeney Todd, and then I did The Canterville Ghost. That was a musical with Ron Moody. Remember Ron Moody?
Yeah?
Yeah, he was in that. And then I got into Starlight Express in London.
Oh.
And then I did loads of stuff after that. That was the turning point, I think.
Can I ask then, Starlight Express, obviously, you've mentioned the fact that it's roller skates. Is there any sort of was there any sort of calamitous incidents when you're like performing or anything like that, or do you just get that used to it? Like,
yeah. It wasn't a question of do you ever get injured. It was wake up and assess the worst one.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there was always bumps and whatever. Yeah, I saw some. I remember I pulled my tendons and ligaments in my ankle once on one side of the stage in London, and I passed out. It was in so much pain, and they had to cancel the mega mix. There was a mega mix at the end of the show because they couldn't get me across from one stage to the side of the stage to the other without being in a wheelchair.
Oh,
so I thought I'd die because I was covered in this red blanket. It's very dramatic.
You know, I thought a wheelchair might have looked not that much out of place on Starlight Express, to be honest.
We had to go to the hospital in full costume and makeup, and they had to cut me out of my costume because
really,
give me an X-ray. Yeah.
Wow. Oh wow. Okay. All right. So then I've got down here that you were in Alice in Wonderland and through the
RSC. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was great. That was good fun.
And you played Tweedledum, is that right?
Tweedledum and a couple of other things as well, but that was the main thing, yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I've got the last thing that I've got down for on IMDb is A Whole Lifetime with Jane Demetria.
Yeah. He's a very impressive guy. No, I just got a job called Newsies, a musical. It was at the Troubadour Theatre in Wembley recently, and about the same week I got this phone call saying, "Oh, can you come and do this?" I didn't even audition for it, but I'd auditioned for something else for that casting person a few years, 6 months before or whatever. So I just turned up and did it. I wasn't in it very long, but it was fun to do.
Okay, so what are you doing at the minute then?
Well, like I said, I just finished the Newsies. And I'm doing the whole in-between thing at the moment, in between jobs.
Right, okay.
But COVID certainly took the wind out of everyone's sails, didn't it? And we were no exception because the theatre business just completely shut down for the best part of 2 years, really, year and a half. So I'm still kind of coming out of that, really. Music was brilliant. I really enjoyed that. And I'm hoping that that's going to go into the West End this year. And hopefully they might ask me to go with it, but we'll see. So I'm just auditioning at the moment, back on the audition circuit.
And without prying too much, then you said about COVID hitting you. Did you do any work of any kind?
Well, I was in The Lion King when COVID started.
Wow.
When the lockdown started, so I was about to leave a few months later. I was been in there for 9 years, so I was about to leave and kind of get back out there, and then obviously nothing for like I don't know 6 or 7 months and. A friend of mine's a painter and decorator, and he took me under his wing, and I did a bit of that for a while. Bit of paint and decorate. What else have I been doing? I've been doing all sorts, just paying the bills.
Yeah.
It gets tougher as you get older because you're not as high on the employment heap as you were when you were 20. But
yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so I mean, you've mentioned this a little bit, but are you still in touch with any of the cast from Grange Hill?
No, I'd love to be. Like I say, actually, no, it's a lie. I've been in touch with Des. I kind of stumbled across him on Instagram or somewhere, and we had a brief little chat via email, which was nice. No, I've not been in touch. I'd love to get in touch with Kelly and David Crane and Chris and Joe. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really follow Instagram or that much, so I probably could find them with a bit of research, maybe.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we are sort of coming just up to the end of the interview now, Jamie, and I've got a few questions for you. It's the same questions I ask at the end of every interview, and they're all about Grange Hill.
Okay.
So recently, there's been talk of the Grange Hill movie.
Oh yeah,
Phil Redmond is involved, and Sarah Sugarman and Kellen Jones, who was a teacher in the Liverpool years of Grange Hill.
Oh, right.
So what do you think of the idea of a Grange Hill movie?
Yeah, why not? I mean, it'll have an audience, and it'll probably introduce another audience, a younger audience to it as well. Yeah, it's a good idea. Why not?
Brilliant. And if you were asked, would we see the return of Grimbo?
I sincerely doubt it, but yeah, I thought so. Yeah, of course I would. Yeah, I mean, no one really remembers me, so it's kind of I've got all those lovely memories and all that experience, but no one remembers who I was.
Right, okay.
Anonymity.
Well, I remember who you were.
Oh, okay.
Okay then. So, other than Grimbo, who was your favourite character in Grange Hill?
Grange Hill. I enjoyed Kelly George's character quite a lot. He was fun, and Justine, she had a nice character. Christy, who's the one that got pregnant? Chrissy, yeah. They all had nice characters, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you couldn't have played Grimbo, which character would you like to have played?
Oh, blimey. Well, it wouldn't have been in my era. It would have been in another
era.
Yeah,
no, that's cool.
I'd like to have played. It was the guy that did London's Burning.
John Alford.
Yeah. I'd like to have played him or something.
Yeah, cool.
I enjoyed that era.
Okay, then, Jamie, the final question then is, why do you think there's still such affection for Grange Hill?
I think because nowadays, it sounds a really old fart thing to say. There's so much TV out there. There's so much. You got your social media and everything. Back then, all you had were 4 channels. Well, 5 eventually, and that was it. So I think people didn't have a choice but to watch it because that was all that was on for a while. So maybe that's got something to do with it. I don't know.
Well, Jamie, thank you so much for coming on. We've tried to make this work for a while, haven't we?
I know, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's not worked out, is it? But thank you for your patience. I hope it was worth it.
Yeah, no, definitely. We have been trying to get this one sorted for a couple of months now, and things just.
No, I appreciate your patience. Thank you.
As I've said before, real life has to come first. Real life gets in the way sometimes,
exactly,
isn't it? But I'm glad we were finally able to catch up. It's been great talking to you and hearing your time, your experiences on the program.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. You've brought back my memories.
Brilliant. Well, once again, thank you so much. And to anyone that's listening, I'll speak to you next time. Cheers. Thanks. Bye-bye.